We're live now, Chair.
Thank you, Andy. Good evening, colleagues. Welcome to the Planning Committee meeting, which is being live streamed on the Knowsley Council YouTube site. Can I please ask everyone to keep their microphones muted unless invited to speak, and please have your mobile phone to turn to silent. In order to assist those individuals who are watching tonight's proceedings, I am Councillor David Lonergan, the Chair for this evening. Can I ask the clerk to seek a brief introduction from the committee members in order to confirm their attendance? Andrew?
Thank you, Chair. I'll do a roll call alphabetically, and if could members confirm their attendance. Councillor Aston?
Present, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bannon?
Present, Chair.
Councillor Brennan? Councillor Brennan?
Present, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Flute?
Present, Chair.
Councillor Gaffney?
Present.
Thank you very much. Councillor Harbour?
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Harvey?
Present.
Councillor Lilly?
Present, Chair.
Councillor McGlashan?
All present and correct.
Thank you very much. Councillor Moorhead? Councillor Moorhead?
Sorry, can you hear me now? Present.
Thank you very much. Councillor Morgan?
Present, Chair.
Cheers. Councillor O'Keefe?
Present.
Councillor O'Mara?
Present.
Councillor Powell?
Present, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, colleagues. To assist with the flow of the meeting, can I ask all members to raise their electronic hand on the system to indicate if they wish to speak and to lower it afterwards, please? Can I also ask you to unmute your microphone when invited to speak and to put it back onto mute afterwards, and to ensure that you face the camera when you're speaking? I will be taking a poll during the course of this meeting where members of the committee will have the opportunity to vote. The results of this poll, including how members have voted, will be recorded on screen for everyone to see, but will not be recorded in the minutes unless a recorded vote is specifically requested in line with council procedure rules. Andrew, are there any apologies?
Thank you, Chair. I've received apologies from Councillors Bell, Flatley and Smith.
Thank you, Andrew. Moving on to item 1, are there any declarations of interest?
I haven't been notified of any, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, thanks very much, Andrew. Item 2, application for planning permission. Item 2A /20/00193/FUL is for residential development, including the erection of 266 dwellings at land off Valley Road and Whitefield Drive, Kirkby. Can I ask Lee Osborne to present this item, please? Over to you, Lee.
Hi, Chair. Thank you. Good evening, committee members. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get the share screen up. Oh, there it is. Right, sorry about that.
It's okay.
Good evening, committee. This application relates to the former Kirkby Leisure Centre sites bounded by Valley Road and Whitefield Drive, with access off Whitefield Drive. The centre was demolished more than 10 years ago, and the site is vacant and partially overgrown, with some paths standing and 2 accesses into the site remain. Between the southern boundary of the application site and the M62 roundabout, is an open area allocated as green belt that is also in the development opportunity area. To the northwest of the site is Elstead Road within the established residential area of Westvale, and adjacent to the northwest corner of the site is a small residential site currently under construction, which will also be accessed off Elstead Road. The opposite side of Whitefield Drive consists mostly of a variety of housing, including terraced houses, 4-storey maisonettes, and a semi-detached house. There are also bungalows in the vicinity of the site, and the Johnny Todd public house is on Whitefield Drive opposite the site. To the other side of the Valley Road is an area of open space with a modern housing estate beyond. The application seeks planning permission for the erection of 266 houses, together with access roads, an electrical substation, a water pumping station enclosed by palisade fencing, landscaping and associated works. There's been substantial negotiation at pre-application stage and negotiation between officers and the applicant and their representatives leading to the current application. In terms of representations, 324 letters were sent out to properties in the area advising of the application, and a number of site notices displayed, plus a press notice published. As a result, 5 representations have been received, with 2 of those objecting to the application. The representations are summarised in section 6 of the committee report. As noted previously, the site is allocated as a development opportunity site suitable for residential development in the adopted development plan. Say policy H4 in the Unit 3 development plan specifically identifies the application site as a development opportunity site at Kirkby Stadium and states that should the site become available for redevelopment, it would be suitable for redevelopment for residential use or for a mix of residential and small-scale community or commercial uses to serve the local area. However, at the time the UDP was adopted, the site contained Kirkby Stadium, which is why it is also allocated as an existing major sporting use. Say policy H4 explains that the site would be surplus to the requirements following the completion of the new leisure facilities on Whitefield Drive, and then the site would become available for redevelopment. The site has been vacant for some time and available for redevelopment, and therefore a residential development of the site would be in accordance with that save policy H4. The development would comprise 83% affordable housing, equating to 221 houses comprising 43 affordable rent and 40% shared ownership, with the remainder of the housing being for private rent. In all, the housing would be mostly split between 3-bedroomed and 2-bedroomed houses with 14 4-bedroom dwellings. And a car park is also proposed on the northwest side of the site, accessed off the estate road, but to serve Elstead Road residents. One of the conditions does state, the affordable housing condition does state 26 dwellings to be affordable housing. That is the policy requirements, although, as you just heard, the applicant is offering considerably more in the affordable housing market than the policy requirements. The development would be outward looking on all sides. That is, it would face out to Whitefield Drive, it would face out to Valley Road, the houses and gardens of Elstead Road, and open space to the south. The site would also be accessed off Whitefield Drive using the existing accesses. The houses would be contemporary in appearance of brick and tile with a brick detailing, and there are a number of different designs which together will give a cohesiveness to the development and a sense of place. Some drawings would be 3 and 2-bedroom terraced with steep peaked roofs, while some others would be L-shaped with single-storey elements linking. Others are more traditional semi-detached houses, and there would be dual aspect on corners. The 3-storey terraced houses would be to the Valley Road and Whitefield Road frontages to give a presence to these main highway routes. The main estate road would have a boulevard avenue character with unbroken footpath stretches, parking at 90 degrees to the direction of the carriageway, and trees within the street scene. The road around the edge of the site would have housing just to one side to allow the outward looking of the site, and houses here would have parking parallel to the main carriageway. Roads within the site, more central, would have a more intimate feel. Shared spaces featuring level footpaths and roads have been introduced to low traffic areas near the edges of the site, and these areas will prioritise pedestrian activity, and the contrasting finish of the areas will differentiate them from the adjoining areas. And this design has been led by a desire to reduce the visual impact and prominence of vehicles. Whilst traffic on Whitefield Drive and Valley Road will increase as a result of the development before dissipating onto the wider highway network, it is considered that this can be safely accommodated and it will not cause network or safety issues. Dwellings would have parking in accordance with the council's standards. That is, 2 and 3 bedroom houses would have 2 spaces, with 4 bedroom houses having 3 spaces. There would be designated parking on street in the parallel and 90-degree bays, with other parking being in curtilage to the houses. The relationship between the proposed houses and the existing housing stock, including those currently under construction, would be satisfactory in terms of interface distances. The new houses would be at least 14.5 metres from the houses of Elstead Road, presenting gables to the site, due to being set at 90 degrees or thereabouts to Elstead Road, and greater in many cases. The distances between new houses and dwellings on the opposite side of Whitefield Road would be in excess of 35 metres, and there would be around 20 metres between the secondary elevation of new dual aspect housing and housing under construction adjacent to the site of Elstead Road. As such, the interface distances would accord with council standards and more than accord in most cases, and it is therefore considered that the new development would not be detrimental to the residential amenities, including privacy and outlook, of the occupiers of either the existing or the new properties. A number of interface distances within the development are below the council's usual standards, with front-to-front distances being 14-15 metres in the narrower streets and up to 23 metres, and most being 18 to 20 metres. However, future occupiers will be aware of the interactions between the houses before they purchase or rent the property, and it is considered that the amenities, including privacy, will not be unduly affected due to the shorter distances, but that on balance it is considered acceptable in this instance to allow an innovative and visually appealing residential development with good relationships between the private and public realm to be allowed, and with relatively high density and a street hierarchy part of the design concept. Valley Road, the M57 and the Slip Road are relatively close to the site, and therefore there is potential for road traffic noise to affect the amenity of future residents. The Noise Impact Assessment Report was submitted as part of the application, which demonstrates that all gardens but one would achieve an acceptable level of amenity, provided that 2.4 metre of high walls are provided to certain plots. However, it was noted that glazing would need to be upgraded on certain plots, and that alternative ventilation would be necessary in certain cases that did not require the opening of windows. With regards to garden that would experience a higher noise level, it would experience a marginally higher noise level than considered acceptable. This could be reduced but would require a wall greater than 2.4 metres, which would have a detrimental effect on the character and appearance of the development. On balance, given that the acceptable noise level is only marginally exceeded in the garden of one property out of 266, it is considered that the potential harm to the street scene of comprising the high wall at this point outweighs the noise considerations to that one garden. Environmental Health have no objection to the application, but do request a conditional additional to those in the published recommended schedule of conditions and identified in the additional information report. With regards to air quality, an updated air quality assessment has been submitted, and Environmental Health are satisfied with the report. It does show there to be one area with a marginal exceedance of the nitrogen dioxide air quality objective. However, this is not within Knowsley, and the report shows the air quality objective is not being exceeded within this development, and shows the impact of air quality from the proposed development will be negligible. Environmental Health note that all properties will have an electric charging point installed, which will help improve air quality in the future. The basic principles of how the site will be drained have been outlined and seem reasonable, although additional detail has been submitted and is currently under consideration. In terms of trees, there is a lot of 9 individual trees and 4 groups of trees proposed as part of the scheme. However, it should be noted that 7 of these trees and 3 of the groups are of low quality. The other trees to be removed are of moderate quality, but the applicant has confirmed that the retention is not viable. Excuse me. Mitigation for the tree loss is proposed through the landscaping within the site and the public open space provision, which will occur on land to the south of the development site. Whilst the council arboriculturalist notes that it is always preferable to retain trees where possible, they do recognise the mitigation being provided and that the provided method statement provides adequate protection for those trees to be retained. The local authority has to consider the impact of European sites, and an appropriate assessment through a habitats regulations assessment has been carried out by Merseyside Environmental Advisory Service, which evaluates whether the development will have an adverse effect on the integrity of European sites such as Sefton Coast Dunes and the Mersey Estuary. This work concludes that providing the proposed mitigation measures are agreed, there will be no adverse effect on the integrity of the European sites. The mitigation measures include the provision of a residence information pack included in the sales packs or rental agreements of the proposed houses to inform residents of the presence and importance of these European sites and how they can help protect them. It will also identify suitable alternative green spaces for recreation within the area, such as for dog walking, such as the site which will be laid out immediately to the south, Mill Park, and so on. A condition is proposed to secure the mitigation. In terms of ecology, an extended phase 1 habitat survey and a reptile survey report were submitted, and based upon the findings of the report, there will be no harm caused to the local wildlife sites, and subject to certain conditions for the provision of habitat or protection of species, as noted in the committee report, there will be an acceptable impact on biodiversity within Knowsley. In terms of antisocial behaviour, the terraced housing would have rear accesses via alleyways. However, the design and siting of the alleyway should not give rise to antisocial behaviour issues, and all dwellings have and contribute to natural surveillance. Remote parking would be overlooked as it is over the road to and in view of the houses to which the parking relates. There are clearly defined private and public spaces and defensible space for frontages. The scheme has adopted secured by design guidance and will provide good levels of personal and property security. With regard to the additional information report, this has been circulated today with regard to the application and is summarised as follows. Natural England have submitted a consultation response since publication of the agenda. They have no objections to the proposal, subject to a condition which already forms part of the officer recommendation. After further investigation, the Council's archaeological consultant is satisfied that the scheme would not cause harm to any archaeological remains. Additional advice has been received from Environmental Health with regard to air quality in relation to the report submitted. The report identifies that additional traffic generated by the development would have negligible impact on levels of nitrogen dioxide or particulate matter. The report also finds that the site has an acceptable air quality environment for new residential development. Environmental Health and Consumer Protection Services have reviewed the report and consider the findings to be acceptable. The Environmental Health and Consumer Protection Service have requested an additional condition relating to noise mitigation, detailing that the noise mitigation in the noise impact assessment should have been completed prior to any dwelling being occupied. Condition 11 relates to the parking scheme for Elstead Road residents, and this condition currently has a traffic regulation order informative. It is recommended that this informative be removed from the condition. Condition 12 relates to traffic regulation order within the scheme and is proposed to be reworded, whilst condition 24 relates to soft felling of an identified tree and is proposed to be amended with regard to drawing number reference. Finally, condition 29 relates to affordable housing, and the wording is proposed to be amended as the current wording may cause difficulties in accessing funding from Homes England. All the conditions identified to be revised have the new wording recommended detailed in the additional information report. There is, overall, there is a surplus of public open space in the area, and therefore on-site public open space provision is not proposed. An enhancement of the existing provision is deemed to be more appropriate. A commuted sum of over £550,000 towards provision and or enhancement of off-site public open space is required, which is usually secured through the provision of a Section 106 legal agreement in the event that planning permission is granted. However, the applicant has agreed to pay the council the commuted sum, which will be earmarked for various improvements to public space near the site, including that open space adjoining the southern boundary, but the sum will be secured through the land deal associated with the site, given that the site is in the council's ownership. Sites over a certain size are required to improve accessibility to a range of jobs and skills and education barriers to employment through the local planning system. In the case of residential development sites, the threshold is 30 dwellings, and therefore, due to the scale of the development, the application falls within this requirement. In this instance, a contribution of nearly £24,000, which would be made available to Fusion 21, is required. Whilst the social value strategy and contribution is usually secured through a Section 106 legal agreement, in this instance it will be through the particulars of the land transfer agreement due to the council ownership of the land. In conclusion, the scheme is an innovative In conclusion, the scheme will provide an innovatively designed residential development on a gateway site that is identified as being suitable for residential development. It will provide high quality, mainly affordable houses that will be sympathetic to the surroundings and provide a good level of amenity for existing and future occupants. Subject to conditions, the environmental effects of the development are acceptable. This is recommended that the planning application is approved and the conditions approved as identified in the committee report recommendations section. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Lee. There will be a full opportunity shortly for members to raise any questions with our officers relating to this application. In the meantime, I've received notice that Mr. Ryan James, acting for the applicants, wishes to speak in support of this application. Mr. James, whenever you're ready, you have 3 minutes to speak, after which you may be required to respond to any questions of clarification from members. Andrew will assist you with the timing, so whenever you're ready, Mr. James, you have 3 minutes, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Evening, members, and thanks a lot for allowing me to present our scheme today. Over the past 18 months, we have progressed this scheme through planning, working alongside our project team, your housing group, and Knowsley council officers. I'd personally like to take this time to thank all officers for the hard work on this scheme, assisting us in arriving to what we believe is a high-quality gateway entrance site to Kirkby. The proposal in front of you today consists of 266 residential units, delivering 2, 3 and 4 bedroom family homes across a mixture of tenures, including affordable rent, shared ownership and private rented. We're extremely confident that these new homes will assist new residents, local residents onto the housing market, and our aim is to retain Kirkby residents as well as attracting new residents to the area to provide significant footfall to the amenities in Kirkby Town Centre. The scheme design, which was undertaken by Eden Architects, provides contemporary dwellings which are 3-storey in height along Valley Road and Whitefield Drive frontages, with heights lowering to 2-storey within the site. We've introduced tree and landscape planting along all key routes. This is to provide a boulevard-style street scene. Also, part of the development, a new dedicated 25-space car park for residents of Elstead Road is proposed to alleviate current parking pressures in the area. This design will create an interesting and eye-catching development in this key gateway location, which I believe is unique to other residential developments currently in Knowsley. We're also supporting council officers with the input into the design of the public open space to the rear of the site, in which Knowsley will be in full control of delivering. We feel this will bring added value to our scheme and much needed links to areas such as Cockthorne Playground, and it will bring benefits to both new and existing residents. ENGIE has also been working with Fusion 21 on a social value strategy, which you'll see a commitment from ENGIE hiring local apprentices, undertaking school visits and delivering career workshops to local school children. I feel it's worth noting also that a public leaflet drop in March this year to 274 local addresses was well received, with several positive inquiries from residents. Your housing group are currently liaising with these residents to provide more information, but this shows a clear support from the local community to the development of this site. To briefly conclude, the collaborative approach taken to this development will bring forward a high quality housing scheme, which will enhance the local area, create linkages and improve local green spaces, and will complement the excellent forthcoming town centre development. We look forward to continue partnership working with Knowsley Council and other key stakeholders to deliver this exciting development. Thanks a lot for your time, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Can I ask now if members have any questions for Mr. Ryan? But before you do, could I just ask everybody just to note again that there will be an opportunity in a few moments to ask questions to our officers relating to the application. Do I have any questions at all of clarification for Mr. Ryan? You could raise your electronic hand, please. Okay. I can see none here. Can I thank you for that, for your time there? And can I now at this stage, if members have any questions to the officers relating to the application, first of all, could we go to Councillor McGlashan?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks very much for the excellent presentation, Les and James. I'm really in favour of it, and it looks quite attractive. There's one or two things which have cropped up on other sites. Is you get a huge scream about rats and the likes of this. So since we've started to not include it as part of our service, unless it's charged, can they be addressed? Is there anything put aside? I've had a number of complaints from sites which I chair about noise vibration affecting other properties, adjacent properties, because there's cracked ceilings, God knows what, but there's never anything put to one side for any compensation to these existing tenants. So that's something that I'd like an answer to. Also, will there be, it does say there's going to be parking prior to the site opening, because as most of these sites these days, they're all subcontracted. Are we going to have a car park on site so there's nothing on the road, and also proper in-out for construction vehicles? Because, you know, I'm quite fed up at times going about looking at the wheel washing facilities and other things. So, you know, the noise vibration, is anything put aside for existing properties, the pest control and the location of the site for construction vehicles, and also people who work on site. Other than that, it sounds an attractive site and I welcome it.
Thank you very much, Mr. McGlashan. Councillor McGlashan, can I ask you to lower your hand? Thank you. Lee, could you answer those points, please?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor, I'll try to respond to your queries. There is a construction management plan which has been submitted, which is currently under consideration by Highways and Environmental Health. And so the requirements of the construction management plan include looking at noise mitigation and any impacts from vibration caused through piling techniques or anything like that, if piling is proposed. There is also a subsection required to look into the control of pests if pests arise from the site development, and you know, you go into local residents' gardens and so on. as a result, as they're cleared from, as the site is cleared. So there's an element of that's got to be provided for and looked at. And there will be a requirement for on-site contractors parking along with on-site contractors facilities such as the site office, the canteen building, and WCs and so on and so forth. So there is construction management plan currently been submitted and currently under construction as consideration. As it's still under consideration, that's why we got it as a condition still, rather than detailing it as an approved document. Hopefully that's identified or provided the information that you require, Councillor.
Thank you. Can I just ask, Mark, you've raised your hand. Do you want to come in on that point?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Lonergan. Thank you, Chair. Just thought it might be worth just responding to Councillor McGlashan's point about compensation, because that was one of the issues you raised with members. That wouldn't be a matter we could deal with through the planning process. It's a matter which will be a civil matter between NG, their contractors, and the householders. Clearly, we can assist those residents with communication with NG if they're concerned about those issues. But as I say, it's not such a planning matter which we can take into consideration. As Lily's mentioned, there is a construction management plan condition in front of you as a proposed condition, and we clearly, if members wish to support this application, then we'll ensure that issues that Councillor McGlashan has raised are sort of kept in the forefront in our conversations with the NG. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. I've got a couple of hands raised. Can we go to Councillor Harbour, please? Okay, we might be having technical problems with Councillor Harbour. Councillor Aston.
Thank you, Chair. Just to confirm, I very much welcome this development, and in particular, it's nice to see the level of affordable housing scheme, which is very much welcome, I think, and much needed. So I'm looking forward to see this development come out of the ground very soon. It's much welcomed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Aston. Just give Councillor Harbour another moment to join. Look, if a name dropped off my list. Hello, just trying to speak to everybody. Okay. Okay, it looks like Councillor Harbour's had a problem trying to rejoin the meeting, but we'll move on anyway. So before if there are no more questions, I can't see any here. Councillor Aston, could you lower your hand, please? So before I ask the committee to vote on this, does any member wish to move an alternative motion? And if so, can you indicate by raising your electronic hand? Okay, I can see a hand raised by Councillor McGlashan. Is that your hand from before, which has been raised again? I'm presuming that you don't wish to raise an alternative motion, Ken? Okay, Ken, can you hear us? I think your microphone is still on mute.
Yeah.
Okay. Ken, just to tell you that your hand is raised here, I've asked the question to the committee if anybody wishes to move an alternative motion. I take it that you don't, and your hand has now vanished. So the question again, in fairness, does any member wish to move an alternative motion? If so, can you raise your electronic hand? Okay, I see no hands raised. So the recommendation on page 20 of the report is that planning permission is granted subject to the schedule of conditions. I will now take a poll on this to find out the numbers voting for or against or wishing to abstain. Only committee members may vote at this stage. Can I ask Andy O'Brien to make the arrangements to start the poll and display the results, please? Thank you, Andy. Just a reminder, can you vote at the circle and click the submit button at the bottom of the screen once you've voted? You should then receive a message on the bottom right of your screen which says your poll has been submitted. Okay, Andy, how are we doing? Okay, can I ask the clerk to confirm the outcome of the vote, please?
Sorry, Chair, the results went off before I had the chance to read them. Could Andy put them on again, please?
Sorry, Chair, just having technical difficulties. I'm just trying to get it back on screen. So is that still on screen, Chair?
No, I can't see it at this end. No.
Let's see.
If Andy just shares the result with us.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep,
let's.
perhaps
Yeah,
if
there
you
we go.
could you read it out? Okay.
Apologies for that, Chair.
That's okay. Okay, so the recommendations have been approved and planning permission has been granted. Colleagues, can we move on to item 3, which is delegated planning decisions? Mark, can I ask you to present this item when you're ready, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just briefly, members will be aware this item is for information purposes only. So this is the list of applications decided at officer level rather than planning committee. There is a lot of applications there, and clearly I'm happy to answer any questions that any members may have. Just to draw your attention to 3 applications, because I do know that a number of members have had contacts over the weeks about telecommunication applications and the rollout of 5G technology in the borough. So just really to highlight to members, there are 3 telecom mast applications on that list of delegated applications. On page 37, you'll see there's an approval for a telecom mast in Valley Road in the Cherryfield ward. Page 38, we refused an application for a mast in Bigdale Drive. And on page 40, you'll see there was a refusal for a mast in Roby Road in Roby. Just to highlight to members really that these are what's called prior approval applications and not planning applications. So the council's sort of involvement is strictly limited in terms of what we consider, and we can only consider the siting and the appearance of those masts. That being said, we do have regard to the visual impact of those masts, and you can see in 2 occasions there we considered that the visual impact of those masts was inappropriate. That's the reason those applications were refused on those clear planning grounds. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mark. Do members have any questions at all for Mark? Please raise your electronic hand. Okay, I can see none there. So can I ask if colleagues if we can note this item affirmed by the absence of electronic hands? Okay, thank you. That's noted. Thank you, Mark. Moving on to item 4, appeal decisions. Mark, can I ask you again to present this item?
Yes, thank you, Chair. There's two appeals there, as you'll see, Chair, for information purposes. One in which the council managed to defend its position, another one which was overturned. If I just refer to the first one, Chair, which was in Fairfield Avenue in Huyton, which is off Pilch Lane East, property with large rear gardens. I'll just share, Chair, an image of the site. Just bear with me a second. We're just coming up, Chair. Do you have that, Chair?
It's about to come up now. Not quite. Yes, thank you.
See that? So
Thanks,
sorry,
Mark.
it's a slow technology at my end. So you can see, Chair, the red rectangle. That's the property involved. So the following an enforcement complaint, we investigated a large detached building at the bottom of that garden. It backs onto the railway line, as you can see. We as officers considered that would be an impact on the neighbours from that large property. We submitted an enforcement notice following failure in sort of negotiations with the applicant to amend it or demolish the building. The owner went to appeal, and unfortunately the inspector didn't agree with our view. He felt that the distance the building was away from other properties, the acute angle, the fact that there was boundary treatment and vegetation, and that there's other buildings in the rear gardens. He felt that on balance there wasn't a significant impact, and he dismissed the enforcement notice, and planning permission was granted for that, unfortunately. So that was that position. Thank you, Chair. The other application,
yep,
which was one which a planning appeal against a refusal of planning permission, was for a dwelling in that rectangle you see there, the red rectangle. We as officers felt there was concerns about that in terms of it creating a sort of cramped appearance, a lack of a garden for the proposed dwelling, and that there'd be highway safety grounds. And on all those three grounds, the inspector agreed with our position, and the appeal was dismissed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mark. Do members have any questions for Mark on these two appeal decisions? Please raise your electronic hand. Give everybody a moment. Okay, I can see no hands raised. So can I ask that we note this item, please? If there are any objections to that, could you raise your electronic hand? I can see no hands raised, so I'll take that as affirmation that we note this item. Okay, thank you very much. Item 5, any other business? Colleagues, there are no further items of an urgent nature. So can I thank you for your attendance this evening, and I declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much and have a nice evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair.
Well,
Thanks, Chair.
God bless.
Thank you, Chair.
Good night. Chair.
Thanks, Chair. Good night,
Good night,
everybody.
everybody.
Nice. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.